Okay, listen to this. Imagine you're standing in a beautiful, quiet forest. You hear the wind in the trees, maybe a deer call. Peaceful, right? Now listen again. Did you hear that? That strange, unnatural human sound deep in the woods. And
Mhm.
then, oh, that. That is not right.
It's deeply unsettling, isn't it? Especially when you know the reports link those sounds to a very specific place.
Yeah, the area around the Jim Corbett Reserve.
Exactly. There's a long history there, and something seems to have gone terribly wrong, something that touches on history and biology in a way that feels fundamentally well-curdled.
Right. And that's precisely why we're doing this deep dive. We've taken a stack of reports, accounts, even some forensic analyses from that region. Our mission today is to really dig into the origins of this deeply unsettling phenomenon and explore what happens when the natural world seems to twist into something horrific. We're talking about the entity known in the local lore as the Laughing Stag.
A creature born, it seems, from unimaginable cruelty.
Let's unpack that because the story begins way back in the 1920s, right? Within the dense South forests of what would eventually become Jim Corbett National Park.
Mm-hmm. That's where the seed was planted, tied to a man named Reginald Thorne.
A British colonial hunter. But calling him just a hunter, it doesn't quite capture it, does it?
No, not at all. Thorne had a profound, cruel streak. He didn't hunt for necessity or even just sport. He seemed to, get pleasure from suffering.
And the sources we have detail one particular act that became infamous. An act so disturbing it birthed this whole horrifying legend.
He captured a magnificent stag, a truly impressive animal.
But instead of killing it cleanly, he kept it alive. And then, in a move that is it's hard to even picture, he replaced its teeth.
He ripped human dentures from local villagers and forced them into the stag's mouth.
His twisted explanation, he wanted it to smile pretty as it died.
Think about that detail, human teeth forced into an animal.
It's an act that violates on so many levels against the animal, against the people he stole from. It's a symbolic and literal perversion.
And according to the accounts, that act did not go unnoticed. And it certainly didn't go unpunished.
Right, there was a witness.
A wandering sadhu, yeah. A holy man known for wisdom and sometimes prophecy. He saw this atrocity. And he didn't just curse Thorne. He laid a specific chilling curse upon the act itself, upon the man and upon the stag.
And what was the essence of that curse? What did it decree?
It was a curse of union, a forced, horrific marriage of man and beast. It decreed that Thorne would experience the stag's pain and that his laughter,
Thorne's cruel, mocking laughter.
exactly,
Yeah.
that it would echo in the stag's throat for eternity.
And it seems that curse took hold, immediately. Thorne vanished that very night.
Vanished. But the next morning, they found disturbing evidence of what had transpired. His rifle was found, but it wasn't a functional weapon anymore.
What happened to it?
It had seemingly melted and twisted into this bizarre, horrifying sculpture of screaming faces.
That's wow. And there was more, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Scattered around where the stag had been held were human molars, each one reportedly inscribed with the name of a villager the villager's Thorne had stolen those dentures from.
Just awful.
But the detail that sealed the horror, the one that the sources point to as the true moment this entity was born, was what was seen watching from the edge of the
The
forest.
stag.
A 12-point stag, and his mouth was stretched into this grotesque grin full of perfect human teeth.
That image, the laughing stag with human teeth, that's the terrible genesis of the creature.
It's the physical manifestation of the curse, isn't it? The cruel man's essence bound to the tormented animal, forever marked by the instruments of his violation, the teeth, the distorted weapon, the echoing laughter.
And sadly, this wasn't just some horrific historical tale that faded away. The accounts we've looked at show that this phenomenon, this curse or entity, it continued to manifest over the decades.
Leading to modern encounters that are just as disturbing. These provide concrete, horrifying evidence that the curse is still active, still causing terrible effects.
Okay, let's jump forward then. To 2001, this account involves Arjun Malhotra, a wildlife photographer.
You can imagine, probably out seeking the beauty of nature in the reserve.
Right, and he captured a sequence of photos that ended up telling a terrifying story. The first picture is perfectly normal, a peaceful stag grazing.
But then, the very next frame, everything changes. The stag locks eyes with the camera and its lips begin to peel back.
And there it is, this grotesque parody of teeth. Yellowed incisors, unsettlingly square, and worst of all, gold-capped canines.
Gold-capped canines.
Yeah, it's described as looking like a dentist's nightmare.
That detail, the gold caps. It's so specific and so human. It really reinforces the idea that this isn't just an animal, but something that has absorbed or is using human elements in the most horrifying way.
Absolutely. And then the third photo in the sequence.
It's blurred. The reports say it looks like the stag is laughing so hard it can't keep still.
And some of the audio captured on Arjun's equipment reportedly includes those uncanny layered giggles we heard at the start.
Arjun's fate is just as tragic and terrifying. He was found a week later.
And the horror wasn't just his death, but the physical manifestation of the curse, right?
Exactly. His spine had been ruptured by 6-inch antler spikes that had grown through his skin.
Oh, God.
At his last journal entry, it offers a chilling glimpse into the psychological torment. He wrote that the stag didn't just mimic laughter, it collects the jokes.
Collects the jokes. What does that even mean?
And he heard Thorne's voice, distinctively, telling punchlines in Hindi, echoing in his mind. It suggests the curse isn't just physical, it's stealing pieces of human consciousness, using them to mock and torment.
It's using the victim's own language, or the language associated with the curse's origin, layering it into its horrifying presence. It transforms the body, but it also seems to violate the mind and identity.
Which brings us to another incredibly disturbing account from 2019. This one involves Raju Basing.
Notorious poacher, right? Known for being ruthless.
That's the one. Apparently, he heard the stories of the laughing stag and bragged that he would hunt it down and mount its head as his ultimate trophy.
So he went after it deliberately.
He did. He went into the reserve, but he didn't return under his own power. He was found 72 hours later, no longer walking, but crawling on all fours.
Crawling? What happened to him?
The physical changes were horrific and rapid. His fingernails had hardened into dense hoof-like keratin, his larynx, his voice box had been reshaped.
So he couldn't speak.
Instead of human speech, he could only produce chittering, deer-like sounds. And his back was arched unnaturally, painfully, as if antlers were actively straining to erupt from his flesh, mirroring Arjun's earlier fate.
This swift, agonizing physical transformation back towards an animalistic form, it's a recurring and terrifying pattern, a horrifying literalization of the curse's promise of marrying man to beast.
And Raju's dying words. They echo the deeply personal psychological horror that Arjun described. He reportedly gasped that he saw my mother's teeth in the stag's mouth.
His mother's teeth?
Yes, and then it laughed in her voice.
Oh, no.
It wasn't just Thorne's voice anymore. It seems the stag was expanding its collection of stolen voices, using them in the most intimate and terrifying ways.
These cases really highlight the dual nature of the threat. A rapid, painful physical transformation fulfilling the man-beast curse, starting with extremities and the spine.
But coupled with that is this profound psychological torment, a violation of identity and memory, using stolen voices and deeply personal imagery.
It doesn't just kill you, it twists you, body and mind, using pieces of other victims, maybe even pieces of yourself.
It's not just a monster of folklore, it's a psychological weapon with a horrifyingly physical mechanism. And this brings us to the more clinical findings, you could say.
The attempts to apply forensic analysis and study to the aftermath of these encounters, trying to unpack the bizarre biology, the anomaly that is the laughing stag.
And the forensic findings are truly as strange as the stories. Let's start with those teeth.
Okay.
DNA analysis has been performed on some recovered dental fragments, including those scattered molars from the origin site.
What did they find?
The results are deeply unsettling. The DNA doesn't match one person. It matches multiple missing persons from the region, spanning across decades.
Multiple people? Wow.
The insight here is profound. The teeth aren't just physical objects. They seem to contain or represent the essence or identity of its victims, collected over time. It connects directly back to Raju seeing my mother's teeth.
That's terrifying. It's literally collecting pieces of people, using them as part of its physical form, and then using them as psychological weapons.
Exactly. And the laugh itself. Recordings, including the fragmented audio linked to Arjun Malhotra, have undergone frequency analysis.
What did that show?
It's not a simple sound.
Yeah.
The analysis reveals it's composed of at least 7 distinct human voices layered together.
7 voices.
This supports Arjun's journal entry about it collecting the jokes, and Roger's experience of hearing her voice. It's not just mimicking laughter. It's building a chorus of tormented voices, a library of stolen sound.
And the physical transformations, like the antler growths?
Forensic examination shows they're not just normal bone. They're composed of incredibly fast-growing bone mixed with human tissue.
Human tissue mixed in.
Yes. It's a hybrid skeletal structure, explaining the rapid, agonizing way they erupt from the body, as seen in Arjun's case.
So it's not merely a curse that causes things to happen, it's altering the victim's fundamental physical form using this twisted hybrid biological process. That's what makes it so uniquely horrifying.
Precisely. And adding another layer to this bizarre biology is a 2022 study that reportedly identified a specific pheromone secreted by the stag.
A pheromone, like an animal scent.
Sort of. But this one apparently acts like a lure, attracting hunters specifically, like musk. It plays on that very instinct that defined Thorn and Raju.
Okay, so it draws them in, but does it do anything else?
That's the disturbing part. Exposure to this pheromone triggers rapid osteogenesis, accelerated abnormal bone growth in humans.
So the pheromone itself causes the bone growth, like the antlers.
It seems so. This provides a terrifying, almost scientific explanation for the rapid, painful physical changes we see in victims like Arjun and Raju. It suggests the curse operates not just through supernatural means, but through a perverted biochemical agent.
The insight here is that this entity isn't just a ghost or a demon, it's a biological weapon that exploits human nature.
It blurs the lines between the mythological horror and a monstrously real physical threat.
That somehow feels even more unsettling, knowing there's a biological mechanism, however twisted, behind it.
Given all this, it leads to a question you probably hoped you'd never have to ask. How on earth do you survive an encounter with something like the Laughing Stag?
Right. The collected accounts and analyses have led to some remarkably specific, albeit bizarre, survival advice. This isn't for dealing with a normal animal or a typical ghost.
No, this is for anyone who might find themselves in or near the reserve and hears human laughter echoing in the jungle.
It sounds utterly strange, but if you are in that terrifying situation, the reports outline very specific things you should apparently DO.
First, cover your mouth.
Cover your mouth. Why?
The reason given is that the stag reportedly steals gestures first. So covering your mouth might prevent it from taking that particular action, perhaps disrupting its ability to mimic or steal your voice later.
It's attacking your very ability to express yourself, starting with the physical action.
That's the idea. It's incredibly specific. It's not just the voice, it's the gesture. It feels like it's trying to take away human expression piece by piece.
It does. Okay, what's next?
Second, blow a dog whistle.
A dog whistle. Seriously.
Apparently, the high pitch hurts its human ears. The insight here is fascinating. Despite its animal form, the human element, Thorn's cruel consciousness bound within, remains vulnerable to things that would affect a person. It has a very specific, almost mundane weakness tied to its origin.
A sonic vulnerability in a creature of horrifying sound.
Okay.
And the third recommended DO.
Show to mirror. The sources state it hates its own reflection. This could be tied to Thorn's vanity, but perhaps the deeper insight is that it cannot stand to see the horrifying hybrid it's become, the physical manifestation of the curse, the marriage of man and beast, the sadhu described. It hates the reality of his own existence.
That's a powerful detail. It hates seeing what it is. Okay, those are the DOs, now the don'ts. Things you absolutely must not do if you encounter the Laughing Stag.
First, do not chase it.
Don't chase it. Why not? Seems counterintuitive if it's dangerous.
This is tied directly back to its origin. The reason given is that pursuing it awakens Thorn's hunting instincts in yourself.
Ah, so by becoming the hunter.
You open yourself up to the very predatory urges that created the entity, making you susceptible to his influence or transformation. You become like Thorn, and in doing so, you become vulnerable to his curse.
You risk becoming part of its legacy of cruelty just by giving chase. That's a terrifying psychological trap. What's next?
Do not smile back.
Don't smile.
This is critical, and perhaps the most chilling. The reports say it takes that as consent.
Consent for what?
Presumably, consent for the transformation, for the theft of your voice, your memories, your teeth, your very identity. It interprets a natural human expression, a smile, as a horrifying agreement to its violation.
It twists something as simple as a smile into a monstrous contract. Okay. And the final, strangest don't.
Do not sleep facing up.
Facing up, what difference does that make?
And the bizarre reason given. The antlers reportedly grow faster towards moonlight.
Towards moonlight?
Yes. This detail underscores just how alien and unnatural this creature is. Its biology is tied to environmental factors in a way that defies our understanding, adding another layer of unsettling mystery.
These rules, as strange as they sound, offer a chilling glimpse into the specific vulnerabilities and methods of this entity. They highlight that you're not dealing with a predictable threat. You're dealing with something that weaponizes gestures, hates its own image, preys on primal instincts, and whose growth is somehow linked to the moon.
And the truly unsettling truth is, this creature isn't a static horror. It seems to be evolving. The accounts and reports from recent years paint a worrying picture of acceleration and new, bizarre manifestations.
Evolving. How?
Yes, it seems the curse, or the entity it created, is adapting, becoming faster, perhaps stronger. Recent reports highlight this. In 2023, a victim was found who had grown fully formed antlers within just 48 hours.
48 hours. Compared to Arjun Malhotra's case where it took a week to find him with spikes, that's significantly faster, more aggressive.
The horror is speeding up.
Exactly.
And in 2024, trail cameras reportedly captured footage of the creature standing upright on its hind legs.
Standing up, like a person.
It suggests a physical evolution beyond just antler growth and extremity changes. It's altering its fundamental form, becoming more bipedal, perhaps even more mobile and human-like in its posture, while retaining its horrifying animal features.
And perhaps the most recent bizarre report just last week involved a survivor.
Yes, someone who encountered the entity, but wasn't fully transformed. Instead, they suffered a localized, yet horrifying effect. Their dental fillings reportedly migrated.
Their fillings? What happened?
They reshaped themselves within their mouth to form a metal grin.
A metal grin from fillings.
Yeah.
That's incredibly messed up.
It's a new, incredibly specific, and frankly grotesque physical manifestation. It shows the curse is finding new ways to twist the human form, always focusing on the mouth, the teeth, the laugh, the tools of its original violation.
So the insight here is terrifying. The curse is not only accelerating, but diversifying its methods of torment and physical corruption.
That detail about the fillings,
Yeah.
its body horror reaching a new extreme, faster transformation becoming more upright, new ways to leave its mark, always centered on the mouth and the laugh. It is evolving.
It is. And this evolution leads to a final, chilling warning found in the accounts.
If you wake up tasting blood and find yourself laughing uncontrollably,
What does that mean? Is it too late?
it sounds like the final, horrifying signs that the transformation is taking hold, that the curse has won. But there is reportedly one desperate countermeasure.
What is it?
You must swallow a silver coin.
Swallow silver. Why?
The reason given for this: the Laughing Stag always collects its payment.
Payment. So we've traced the origins of this chilling phenomenon back to a singular act of cruelty in the 1920s.
We've walked through terrifying modern encounters that show a clear pattern of physical transformation and psychological violation, using collected voices and identities.
We've peered into the bizarre hybrid biology that seems to underpin its horrifying mechanism, including that pheromone that accelerates bone growth.
We've learned the strange, counterintuitive rules for survival if you should hear that awful laughter in the woods.
And finally, we've contemplated the unsettling evidence that this curse or creature is not static, but actively evolving, becoming faster, more physically distorted, and finding new ways to inflict its horror.
It really leaves you with a lot to consider, doesn't it? What does it truly mean for a curse, or the entity born from it, to evolve? Is it becoming something entirely new, something even more dangerous?
And what is this payment that the Laughing Stag collects, and why specifically silver? And if it's collecting pieces of people, memories, voices, teeth, gestures, now perhaps even metal from your mouth, what is it ultimately trying to become?
What is the final form of a horror that collects fragments of human identity?
That's a disturbing thought to end on, and that's where we'll leave this deep dive for today.